All right, Dave, I started the recording.
Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. We'll get started. This is our Academy Community Center Building Committee regular meeting. I call the meeting to order. Next up, our number 2 item on our agenda is approval of the prior minutes from our June 10th, 2024 meeting. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve them?
I will. Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion? No comments online. I see all heads shaking no.
No comment.
No comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Moving on to item 3, our chair comments. Couple comments that I have for the group. Number 1, just to get an update on our commissioning agent. John, I believe those were in discussions at previous meetings. I think we might have actually put a solicitation out or RFP.
Yes, an RFP was put out. We received 3 bids back. Those bids have been submitted. And there were 3 bids. And the recommendation, there was a recommendation that was offered by Felicia Smith from the Facilities Department to Joe. And I'm not sure, I don't think anything's been done since then.
Yeah, that's the only reason I bring it up. I hadn't heard anything. I know we had discussed it in that one meeting, but that's what, 2 to 3 months ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago, but nothing has come of that. There has been no commissioning agent selected.
So we would
Did we review the bids?
I didn't even see copies of them. Anybody, any of our committee members see them?
Thought that had been distributed. I can send that back out.
Felicia has something to say.
Oh, she's on. Oh.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Felicia.
sorry. I'm literally pulling into town hall right now. So the bids were submitted. I think I would have to look over, but I'm pretty sure that it's past the 90 days. So we could reach out to them and see if they still honor their bids. But normally after 90 days, bids are invalid.
It is beyond 90 days.
So did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, whatever you'd like me to do. There were 3 bids. I think my recommendation was Kohler Ronan. They're not the lowest bid. I'm gonna hang up right now because I'm parking and I'll be right in. 1 second.
We do.
January.
I thought I.
Okay, so for January, so it's well beyond 90 days. I don't think we even brought it up for discussion. I know I thought that Felicia was making some phone calls and getting some backup information, but I think somehow that dropped. But I have to assume that is an item that we need to address sooner rather than later. John, does that make sense?
Yes. It does make sense to pursue that.
Because they would, that company or individuals would have input, right,
On the design.
on the final design.
Sorry. I just took my dog up from surgery.
So I guess what would our next steps be? Actually, John. So you reviewed the bids. We had 3. The recommendation
Yes.
from the facility department was
Kohler Ronan, I believe, stretching my memory, that they were the mid-price bid. The lowest bidder only has 1 other job that they've done in Connecticut. They're based out of New York.
Oh, I remember that. They were in East Hartford or something. We can get a call.
Yeah, so I gave a call to Downs. At that point, they were just starting the project. Given that, we expect the commissioning agent to be on site fairly frequently, and all of that. That's my trepidation about sort of an untested commissioning agent, which to me, seeing as most of their work portfolio was in New York, and not only New York, but New York City, which is a very different animal, very different functioning buildings. I just didn't think that they had the berth under their belt yet, that, I didn't want to take the risk trying out an untested agent on this building. That's why I think the second bidder, somebody don't know if it was Kohler on.
No, it wasn't Kohler.
No, it wasn't.
You're the engineer of record. so
Sorry,
it wouldn't be
It
that.
was,
SES, Safari,
yes.
and Colliers.
Yeah,
Right.
No Colliers was the high.
Right.
yep.
So it's
Safari.
SES.
Safari was the low.
Safari
Right,
was
so
the low.
Safari was the one in New York, so SES was the mid-level bidder, I've worked with them frequently. Colliers has worked with them frequently, they're a really solid commissioning agent. So for that reason, that was our recommendation because they were, for the amount of, on-site hours and meeting hours, their bid seemed to track with what I would expect for a project of this size. So that's why I recommended them. I could reach out. I'm sure they would probably honor their bid. But again, since it's been 90 days, standard is 90 days. So if that's the recommendation of the committee, I'm happy to do that, or you could just go out.
Has to be the first step, is reach out and see if they're gonna honor that bid.
Or you could just say, we're gonna go out fresh again, but that's another, 2
I'm not
months
sure.
timeframe. Yeah.
No, they weren't that far off. We were 182 was Colliers, 66 was Safari, and 84.
Around 10%.
They were within, they were within 30%,
Oh,
the lowest bid,
oh,
but they are less than half. So it's not.
and you have comment?
Selection was a good choice. And I would suggest reaching out to them.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it, because I broke it down again by bid hours and what I would expect for a project of this size, and I just felt that the lowest bidder, to be significantly short of the amount of on-site time and meetings time that we would request, and therefore their hourly was the same as the other two bidders, so save in the beginning, but we would probably end up paying at the end because of all of the scope of work that wasn't included that we would be expecting. So, again, that's
This
why
is over what we had estimated originally.
It is,
I think
yes.
that's why.
Yeah, that was part
that's
of
the
the
other thing.
hesitation, I think, from Joe's standpoint, was, the budget was $42,000, so, I think that played into Joe's hesitation as far as, making any selection at that time.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I can reach out to
Yeah.
them again,
I think
follow
we
up
need to
on.
do that. When's our next meeting in 2 weeks, is that right?
The
I know it's
second
last.
Monday, whatever that is, 8th, July 8th it would be.
Mhm.
Is that too late to make a decision, or that's some time frame?
Well, I don't think you can make it tonight. so-
No, what I'm saying is reaching out to them, getting their.
Oh, no, I think I
And
can be able to.
and then we
get
can
that
act at it on it at the next meeting.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable.
Okay, anybody online agree with that?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Perfect. All right, so that's our plan there.
So John, were you gonna reach out, or do you want?
Yeah, I'll reach
Okay,
out.
you want, great.
And then, secondly, one other comment I had was, to the process and kind of more toward the beginning, we talked about subcommittees. I don't think it's too late for us to try to do that for a few of our targeted items. I think one, definitely maybe for finishes, I know Felicia's had a lot of comments, facilities had, again, I'm just making comments here, we're not voting on deciding who's on these or which ones we're gonna have. But I think that would be a benefit, for the group of our committee. Secondly, the environmental impacts, we have a lot going on here, I think a separate subcommittee there just to work, on the side. Nobody's making any decisions, we're just gathering information, and then our regular meeting is bringing that to the committee for discussion. I think that would be helpful. I know Joe Paradiso has a lot of experience in that. So we can, we're not making decisions tonight on who's on what committee, but I think just trying to throw a couple of topics out there that might be helpful to help move this along. I know, Ann, I know your experience in this, anything you think would be beneficial. I know you're on the financial committee with Joan, right?
So what have you said so far?
So I had environmental, and I think we need one for the finishes, the flooring, that sort of items that are still kind of outstanding in our design, right? It might be beneficial.
Down the road, furnishings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe that could
Design might be
that-
able to flow into that. If you do finishes and furnishings, like that subcommittee can just kind of,
could flow from one
Yeah.
name to the other.
Yeah.
Right.
and then during construction, just, I think, selecting an appointee who would attend the weekly owners, architects, and, construction meetings, just to kind of report back. Obviously, not all of you need to be there, but it's always helpful if somebody from the committee directly listens in.
Yeah.
But you don't need to decide that now.
Right. So, and the other support. AJ?
Off the top of my head. I'll let it bounce around a little bit.
I don't know, John, do you have, you do a lot of these projects. Do you have any recommendations typically of
I
what's?
mean, yeah, usually it's, subcommittee associated with the design, such as the finishes, like you mentioned. And then sometimes you will have one for finance, which is already in place. Outside of that, no, I typically, don't see anything, beyond those, main components.
Yeah, I just want to kind of get caught up on this environmental also. I mean, it's kind of grown and, myself and Joe have a lot of experience, with these things.
Yeah.
Any other person, I mean, again, we're not making decisions on which committee.
Yeah.
Tom, do you have any input? I know you're involved all the time in these things.
I'm a big fan of subcommittees because it allows us to get more input from the committee on a more regular daily basis. Subcommittee then reports back to the building committee. The drawback is, the building committee has to rely on a smaller number of its representatives to, do its sort of bidding it's a much more productive way to get decisions made and a more timely way to get decisions made for a project. We're a big fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, would you recommend, I know you're in your construction development phase, specifications, that sort of thing. Is that something that we would have a committee for too?
Absolutely. It certainly could help, or if we at least had authorization to talk on a regular basis to, a three person or 4-person committee or those said members to get information back and forth to the committee, that helps in a massive way. We could have a weekly project update call, talk about the things we're working on. And then if we have questions that need a decision, within a certain sort of magnitude of cost, that subcommittee could make decisions. That's something we can talk about further as you get further along.
Yeah, again, I think it'd be helpful to make these meetings more productive.
Yeah,
We were just getting feedback.
once you're in construction, that sort of change order style committee too. I don't know if that falls, it feels like a lot of things fall under finishes and furnishings.
Well, I mean, right, finish is gonna happen now,
Right,
furnishings
yeah,
after,
that's
right?
while we're in design, and then once you're under construction, ideally, you're not making too many changes to that, because that's, but yeah, the change orders would probably be, a combination of the financial committee looking over them, and then whoever your liaison is, to the OAC meetings, because that's when, it's discussed why you need change orders and what they're for, and everybody kind of agrees that they're, legitimate change orders. So I think that person would kind of consult with the financial committee and say, this is something we agree with or something we want to push back on. So it would be a joint effort. But during construction, yeah, I mean, I think your subcommittees is really just your financial and then whoever liaisons with the actual build. But while you're under design, I think the design committee can handle a lot of the design reviews and the furnishes and finishing. And then if you wanted to have a separate environmental committee to do all those considerations. And then I think there's a couple of department meetings that might need to happen that, somebody can sit in on, but maybe that's somebody from the design committee too, like just making sure IT fire marshal, security, has all had a look at the plans and understands and buys in what the design is. So that's kind of probably all under the design committee scope. If you were to,
I think we can get into that a little bit when Tom goes up. They believe there's some meetings going to be held soon with page turns, so figure out. I mean, I think it's always good for one of us to represent the committee at these meetings, whoever can attend, just to kind of take notes.
Yeah.
Report back. I know, Al, how many people can we have on stuff? Just can we have 3?
Yeah, I think
Because we
Three
have
max.
7, right?
I think it's 3 max, because otherwise you're at a quorum,
Yeah,
which means you have to make a public notice.
Okay. I guess during construction to your finance group, I need a 3rd person. Let us know if you
Is it
enjoy.
up to 3?
Yeah, but then we wouldn't be vote, right? We're not, it's not a quorum, it's 3 of us.
Right.
On each. Right. 2.
That's the other benefit of the committees, you don't have quorums, you don't have to do the whole 24-hour public notice. You can have it during the day. You can, like if you need to sit for 6 hours with the design team and really just hash stuff out, that's what a committee, instead of, having to come here at 5:30 and stay until, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
That's kind of the benefit of it.
Yeah, you have to really make a decision, right? Our group here, right?
And then given the summarization.
Correct, so.
Yeah, the
Anything
true
we need to
voting-
vote on, we can
Yeah, you
vote
wouldn't-
on.
The
you
vote
wouldn't
would
be
happen
making a
here
decision.
Correct.
after the committee briefs you on like kind of what was discussed.
It is between now and next meeting, we can discuss internal committees and ideas, right? We can-
Yeah, that's something we have to formalize into a vote.
Would it have to be next meeting, right? We can vote out.
Or is it an informal?
I mean, does it have, we have to vote on it?
Yeah, I think as long as we reach an understanding, move forward with it, maybe the formal vote will take place next week.
Right. Right. We're not ready today to spend time.
But the whole thing doesn't have to be discussed yet.
Right, right, yeah, no, right, we had a discussion now. Okay, I think that's all I had. We'll jump into liaison reports. I believe Al has an update for us.
I wanted to update the committee on the actions of the Board of Selectmen from last night and the actions of the Board of Selectmen perhaps tomorrow night. Last night was a regularly scheduled Selectmen's meeting, and an update on the Academy project was part of the agenda. Colliers participated in the presentation. The key finding of that presentation was an announcement of the number, of the dollar number involved in completing this project as it was originally proposed at referendum. And the number that Colliers reported last night was approximately $3.8 million. Colliers quickly pointed out that that's not a firm number because this committee may be taking steps to reduce that number. And so the selectmen received that number, and we're very appreciative that we finally have a number that reflects what we hoped to accomplish when we took it to referendum 2 years ago. Tomorrow night is a special selectmen's meeting, and the selectmen will be taking up the very specific topic of what to do in terms of this. I'm going to use the word overage, because I can't think of a better word at the moment. The selectmen will probably identify 3 choices that the selectmen can make. One is to not ask for any further funds, but simply instruct this committee to complete the best darn project you can for $15.9 million. I think that's one of the options. The other 2 options involve referendum. The first one would be to go to referendum in November, but go to referendum with what is in effect an estimate, the best estimate that this committee and its advisors can come forward with as of November of 2024. And take that number to the public and test the public's willingness to provide further, not further bonding, but just to allow us to spend. The third and final option is also a referendum, which would be a February 2025 referendum. And what would we be taking to the public at that moment in time is actually the bid numbers that come back from the contractors. To be a solid number, which the contractors have said they will be willing to contract with us for. And so those are the three options I think the selectmen will be debating tomorrow night. I can't speak for all five selectmen. I don't know which one's going to get selected. There are arguments to be made on both sides for all three. And that discussion will take place in public tomorrow night. I believe the meeting will be at the senior center again. I believe it's a 6 p.m. meeting. If we decide to go to referendum, either in November or February, then I think this committee would be asked to come up with a base number and then a number of add-ons that could be considered if the referendum is successful. Let me stop there and see if I provided a little bit of clarity as to where we are.
First, I'm not on the committee, so I'll let you, the
Go ahead,
committee.
AJ.
So Al, is the idea that the board of selectmen is going to give us direction on moving forward with one path instead of asking us to continue to provide multiple paths as we go?
I think it's only fair for the selected.
We appreciate that.
Vision, yes.
I can speak
We
for all
spend a
of us.
lot of hours.
That was precisely what I was.
Yeah.
Look, the selectmen are very eager to have this project carried out well and carried out expeditiously. We're all on the same side.
Yeah.
And just what we think the voters would be most likely to want us to do is what we will be debating tomorrow night. I think after tomorrow night's meeting, yes, we should be able to provide a clear instruction to the committee. Please do this. Don't bother doing that. If there is going to be a November referendum, time is short because in a presidential election year, the Secretary of the State finalizes the ballot, I believe, the first week in September. So to be part of a general election at this fall means the ballot has to be finalized very, very early. And I realize that's not your problem, except it is. It means that we have to use the best estimate we have as of the end of August. And that's why you might argue November might not be the best time because we would still be dealing with estimates. Whereas,
We use like a not to exceed number. Like for if we went in.
yeah, it's still though, it's still taking a number to the public that we don't know is a firm number. And that's not necessarily bad, but that's what a November referendum would be about. It would be trying to pin
It's an estimate
Colliers
number.
down and your professional cost estimators and taking that number to the public and hoping that it's a good number. So you can see the argument to wait till February is that we would actually have gone out to bid and have contractors respond to us before a February referendum. Now, one final message Colliers delivered last night, and I want to make sure I understand it correctly, is that the timeline is about the same for both, whether we have a referendum in November or whether we have a referendum in February, that the further design and construction timelines are just about identical. Is that correct?
The completion date was essentially the same.
Completion.
Construction completion date, yes.
Yeah.
The design date can move or vary there in the bidding process, so the bidding timeframe could fluctuate, but ultimately, both of those scenarios resulted in construction being pretty much at the same completion.
Now, if we, this is a question for Tom, if we need to wait till we get to February, we may have put together construction documents that will have to be rescoped if the decision is don't spend any extra money, right? Because the construction documents will presume that that extra money is spent. And then the public will decide whether they would really want to do that. So would that be a change order from your team at that point? The public, if we put together these CDs and then we say, hey, can you cut a bunch of stuff out?
It's possible. It's possible, but the theory is that we would have a base scope of work that reflected most of the base scope, and then alternates that reflected all of the additional scope. I don't the scope that corresponds to the additional dollars. I don't think it's that clear cut. I think that it's there's an overlap of some of the scope and services and costs. So there might be additional funds if we go backwards at that time. Both approaches work with the QA design team. We'll figure out how to make it work and get out to bid. I think it's been sort of encapsulated in the best way by Al. From the design team's perspective, it's easier to work all the scope into a lump sum project and know that it's going to be, approximately, added funds not to exceed X. Then we would build in just a minor number of alternates to make sure that we get in under the scope. So from the design team's perspective, it's a little easier to do it moving forward based on the estimates with a November referendum. But both approaches work, and we would just split the bidding documents up accordingly based on which route you decide to go.
Al, I just wanted to clarify, so if you were to go to referendum for either way, if it were to fail, the project still proceeds at 15.9, there's no pause, there's no scrapping the project, it still proceeds at that set dollar.
Thank you for emphasizing that,
Okay.
Alicia. The project's going forward either way.
Okay.
Yes.
So we got a plan for that, AJ.
Al, you mentioned that tomorrow night's meeting is a public meeting.
Absolutely, yes.
Are you seeking input from the public, or will this be probably or more likely a private discussion amongst the select?
I think there will be the usual citizens' comments, as would be true for any meeting. But this is essentially a judgment the selectmen have to make.
If it goes to referendum, what will you inform the public about the source of those $3.8 million? Where are those dollars going to come from?
I think that will be fully discussed tomorrow night. And obviously, we're not asking for any increase in bonding.
The public will want to know where those dollars come.
And there are many ways this could be presented to the public, and I will let the five of us speak tomorrow night rather than one of us tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking it through to make sure that.
Again, we still got a plan, right? Even if we option 2 goes and it's November, right? Still gonna be progressive, but if it's turned down, then we're back.
Yeah, when you present a referendum, I presume part of that referendum is what will be included for the additional funds, right? If some of this stuff is at alternates, potentially gets cut out because there's another overage. There's a mismatch of expectations between what the public signed up for and what we actually deliver, right? So we're still going to be in a little bit of a precarious spot.
Yeah, AJ, I think it comes together, it gets merged. Obviously, the selectmen have to decide what is the number to take the referendum. And that's going to be based on the findings of this committee and its advisors.
Yeah.
And selectmen may decide that a certain number is the right number. And that may mean that certain things do not get included.
But the expectation would be that the board of selectmen will come back to us saying, this is the number we'd like to proceed
Yeah.
with. What can we get for
What
that?
can we get for this exact number?
And that's what the public is gonna wanna know, what do you get for X number of dollars?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Right, so I think for Tom's and just understanding it, I think that the design scope is you design a base bid to 15.9, which is what you have. And then you say, the add alternates, which might be very basic add alternates, like you might design 15.9 without toilets. Just to be, and then the add alternates that come to add up to that additional 13 or 3.8 or whatever it is, are add alternates, so that I think that keeps the bidding clean. So if you bid it out with the estimates and then the referendum fails, you still have bid out and bought your base bid. It just means you don't have any of your alternates. So that it's a pretty clear, it should be a pretty clear, base bid scope. This is what you're getting. You're getting a community center without the lower level if you fail this referendum. Versus if you pass this referendum, these are all the things that are going to also come with the project. I think that would be the cleanest way to do it in honestly any of these scenarios.
Last night's presentation by Colliers was based off of referendum. So doing everything that was in the referendum, that's really not.
Okay.
So it was portrayed pretty clear last night that referendum at this, and this is what it will cost.
I suppose the one final fact that maybe is news to any of you that was presented last night is the anticipated completion date of the building is now estimated at mid-2026. Do I have that right?
Yes, I think it was end of the summer, beginning of fall, 2026. I don't have that schedule here for reference, but I think that was the time.
So that's a public target date. Thank you.
Al, I have a question. It's Joe online.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me well? Because the microphone is just a little bit jumbled on that end of the room.
We can hear you.
Okay, is there a rationale for the option number 2, meaning going out for referendum with best estimates versus actual construction numbers? Is it just to get something out there sooner, or was there some rationale behind option 2? Does it benefit to either one or 3?
Joe, I assume that was directed to me.
Yes.
I'm not sure there's a whole lot of rationality or logic behind it.
It's just an option. Okay, that's good.
Who's interested in seeing this project move along? You could argue either way about who comes out to vote in a general election versus who comes out to vote in a special referendum. And selectmen enjoy arguing those things long into the evening. There are those that believe that the fairest referendum is one in which the most people come out. And in a general election in Madison, I believe the voters participate perhaps at the 90% level. And in a special referendum in the middle of January or February, it would be a much lower turnout. No matter what the selectmen will decide, I'm sure there are those that think that we as selectmen are somehow gaming the system and trying to influence the results. So no, there's no particular reason that that either November or February is a better choice. I think you could argue either way.
No, I understand. I appreciate that explanation. I hadn't considered that.
Questions? Joan, been awful quiet. Anything? No. All right. Moving on to item 5, review and approve invoice packet. I believe we have one. We just got it though, right? With that?
So I will move to approve.
Right, you guys reviewed it. Perfect.
Yes, you have. Second.
All right, comments?
Nope.
Sounds good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
And now my comment to you would be, I'm glad I'm not on the board of selectmen anymore.
All right, moving on to item 6, review and approve budget line transfers. Do we have it? All right.
None.
Moving on to item 7, Collier's update. What do you have for us, John?
Well, I don't have too much else to add. Al summarized the meeting from last night, the presentation that Mark had for the option that was requested by the selectmen associated specifically with the referendum scope of work. And again, we'll see how that proceeds, based on tomorrow's meeting, but we don't have anything else to add. I know Kathleen's here during new business items. I don't think everything else in.
I just have one question regarding the schedule, these two different dates for the potential referendum. So we're proceeding with construction documents. We're gonna we go out to bid when? Approximately,
We go out to bid in September.
and then,
I don't know. Could be September.
and then we give them 6 to 8 weeks, is that?
Yeah,
Usually,
it's usually 6 to 8 weeks.
so then that puts us to so that's how you get to that February date for the second option for the referendum, where we have the actual bids in. Is that why that February was chosen?
The February date is, that's the, with bids.
Gotcha. So
The
we're,
estimates would be based on uncompleted CDs.
Okay.
Because those would need to be estimated before that September date in order to have a number to present for the referendum.
gotcha. So we weren't gonna go to NTP until March anyway, is that why it doesn't matter either way? With the October or the February?
In that respect, yes, I mean, the referendum date, as Al was pointing out, if it's in November, the number by September is going to be an estimate. If it's in February, at that point, the package, the CB package would be bid out, and a concrete definitive number would be known, so that come February, it's not an estimated number, it's a fixed number that would be from contract.
Do we have any concern? The only concern I think I had in my head was if we chose the February and we go to bid in November, and contractors know that we don't have funding in place for the whole project, you think that may exclude a few contractors from bidding the project? I just know that contractors are very busy and.
I don't think so. I think, the November bidding timeframe is advantageous.
Well, the timing is good.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
just,
you get, contractors looking for work for the coming year.
again, my only concern is that if we didn't have our budget in place and they're bidding it.
Well, but there is still the base budget in place.
We're gonna
You
get
still-
something, right?
Yeah, you still have the $12.1 million in place. It's just a question of whether you have, 15.8 or 9 million with the additional 3.8 million that you're looking for, if that is the number. So that, what they're bidding on may fluctuate, but at least as a start, they do have the $12.1 million in construction scope of work of the contract document. So they are bidding at least that part of it, the additional, potential extra money that could be allocated to the referendum. I don't think that's going to scare them away, to be honest. I mean, if they're.
That's extensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive and it may, certainly keep their interest, but I don't think it's going to scare people away, knowing that at least that 12.1 million for the construction is in place.
And I think it's safe also to say that I would imagine one of the ad alternates would be furnishing the building, which I don't know what the original budget is, but that's probably to the tune of $1 million. So that's not something that GCs are going to be bidding on anyway, because that's something, that would be kind of done outside of the base scope. So, depending on how you package it, you could take all the technology and all the furnishings out, and that's something that the GCs aren't bidding on anyway. So it's like their base is more protected. So I think that's all discussions with the design team about what exactly goes into the base scope versus what's held out as an alternate. I mean, it is a big number and it does seem like a lot, but when you add in sort of all the other things that go to populating a building, that kind of takes a big chunk of that money too.
Would it be,
Yeah, let's see what it is.
Was,
the FF&E was 700,000, that's what we.
yeah.
That's outside of construction.
Yeah, it's separate from.
Mhm.
Thanks, John. All right, moving on to QA&M update. Tom, do you have an update for us?
Yep, so we're moving forward with the construction documents and based on the comments that the committee voted on last meeting. Except for the changes to the mechanical system. Mechanical engineers and design team have given me a added services fee proposal, which I forwarded to John to forward to you, which is on your agenda tonight. The MEP team is not going to move forward until we get some clarification on this. So we have to discuss that this evening. As far as the other items that we're working on, we have coordinated with Kathleen Payne what we'd like to see opened up from a destructive exploration process. She will be putting a proposal together to this committee to get that work done. And we'll talk about procurement, I guess, what has to be done to accommodate that. I did have further conversations with Brian Curtis from Nathan Jacobson engineers, or Nathan L. Jacobson and Associates, regarding the issue of a communal septic system. I could not get them to put together a proposal to do a feasibility study on that. They've kind of backed off from that. They think the best approach would be to have a conversation, make a presentation or a Q&A with this committee first, so that the committee understands, what the impacts are financially, time frame, etc., as well as to solicit some more information in regards to what the community really wants to try and accomplish with that. So they would prefer to have a meeting with either this committee or the community first before submitting a proposal. At this point, we're proceeding with the system as proposed that would support the academy school. And other than that, we're moving forward. That's my report.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Moving on to the comment. Do we have any public? Anybody online? Oh, I guess I could check.
Nope.
Good. All right, move on to new business portion of the meeting. Discussion and vote on the proposal for QA&M for additional design service associated with the modifications in the amount of $44,000. That was sent out to the group by John.
Yeah.
That. There we get a chance to take a look at the scope and what was included.
Saying we're gonna talk about it.
That was sent to Gene Friday, I think. I don't know when you forwarded. I mean, I didn't send it to the committee myself. I think Gene was sending it. I think that may have gone out yesterday.
Was it in the packet that? Yes.
Right. All I see is an email.
It was sent on June 24th. I think to the entire committee, right?
June 24th at 2:19 p.m.
Yeah.
The selective demo. Plus in the minutes. Don't have the email that has the actual.
Correct. Those are things I have. If that sense.
I gotta follow up with the grant documents.
We have a hard copy.
We have one we can put up on, like, share on.
Jeannie, can you find that? Oh,
Essentially, what we talked about last time, right?
right.
They're proposing.
Tom, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that proposal regarding the additional,
It's from June 22nd.
it may be, it's like that, from QAM. Plus and Neil is doing, that's the next one. That's what we're looking at.
I haven't seen it.
Do you guys have a copy of it? I could share my screen if you want to see that.
Yeah, can you share your screen, Tom?
Yep.
You want to do that, Tom? That
Yep.
option?
Let's see. Share screen 2, share.
Oh, I have it.
So our letter is dated June 21, 2024. Essentially, we are requesting additional design service fees to address the change in mechanical system only. So of all of the recommendations or revisions that were requested or recommended by the facilities department, we're just adding for added services for this one change. Requesting design services, additional fees of $44,000. That is made up of two components. One, $30,000 from Kohler Ronan, which is the mechanical electrical engineer, to change the design and the specifications to reflect the new system. And then a fixed fee of $14,000 from our team, architectural team, to coordinate said changes and to address any of the changes in the architecture associated with changing the mechanical system. That results in a fixed fee of $44,000, which would be billed as a part of the CD phase as that work is executed. If you don't have copies of this, I can email this to John. John should have it. You can distribute it to the committee.
Can you just email it?
Do you have the back? Ronan?
I do.
Yeah, is there an hourly
Is that something you
breakdown?
can share, put that on the screen, we just take a look at it, I don't know what the breakdown, if it's hourly or.
It was a lump sum proposal. Let me stop sharing. Let me see if I can find that for you from Craig Raza.
Due to the timeline. if we don't vote on
Sounds like
It
they're
will
gonna
delay.
stop.
that. They can't move forward with construction documents until we decide. on this, right?
Sounds like they're not moving and changing the design until we approve the cost and move forward. The engineer.
This is a fee proposal that I received from Kohler Ronan dated June 17th, 2024. Community center gas conversion additional services. It outlines the cost. The system will have a VRF for base air conditioning system, gas-fired rooftop outside air units for ventilation, and gas-fired boilers for service to service perimeter radiation, gas pipe distribution, coordination with the architect, revised electrical to support the revised design and revision specifications and drawings. It was a lump sum fee proposal of $30,000. And of course, I have not signed it and sent it back to them yet. So the proposal was a lump sum proposal based on the scope identified here, and I can forward that to John and Jean.
So Tom, have they completed their design to date?
They completed it through the phase of the documentation, design development.
What they're saying here with this scope is that they completed their original design. These are all of the changes necessary to go with the gas-fired boiler and all the pipe and everything. Design cost, redesign.
The additional redesign per the facilities request in that document that was reviewed at the last meeting.
Because you presume there's some work left to do.
I'm sorry. Essentially, what they're saying is, no, they haven't completed their design. The CD phase work still has to be done. However, they have to, and you get credit for that work based on the system, but they have to switch gears and redo all of their design development work. That's the simplest way to interpret this, and the value of that is $30,000. That extends across 3 disciplines: mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Because now we have a significantly greater amount of plumbing engineering that has to be done to distribute all the piping through the building, design the boilers, and then support all of that with new electric work and slightly different control system. But any fees associated with MEP for the construction document phase, those are still reserved, and they'll have those fees to take the revised system through construction documentation.
For a proposal to.
So what they're saying is they already designed it now, it's changed to go back and redesign.
Yeah,
A lump sum of 30,000.
that's what I'm.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, do we need a motion to vote in that conversation?
Yeah. Talk about it.
Yeah. So do we have somebody make a motion to approve the design service request for additional?
I'll move to approve.
Second? All right. All right, comments? AJ?
I guess question maybe for Alicia, does this amount of money effectively wipe out any cost benefit that we would get from the switch?
I'll throw that to Peter. I can tell you, compared to other, design fees bids, what that is, but I think Peter should speak on the design benefit of it, which is really sort of the long term that we're looking at.
Let me just start by saying the long-term benefit is going to be, you're going to end up with a more stable energy savings over the period of years of the building. With fluctuating electrical costs of an all electric heated building, you're at the absolute mercy of the electrical company. Plus the fact the building is in the age of the building, all electric can also tend to yield itself to being difficult to heat in a very, very cold winter time, where the gas and the combination of electric with VRFs is a more balanced, as I really like the way Tom put it, a tried and true system that's done in almost all the school systems now, with the exception of anybody that's done geothermal. Once the geothermal was pulled from the project, you lost the stable medium to reap energy benefits and savings from electrical, where you had a constant variable of 51 or 52 degrees of the glycol. You're now relying on outside atmosphere to do your heating and cooling with that would be considered like the split systems or the heat pumps. So that's long term. You're going to be a better in a better position financially, or the town would be, in regards to utility costs.
Back, when we did an analysis of the system, because we had this sort of conversation. Remember us talking through these different systems back when we were taking the geothermal.
Tom had a document.
Oh, yeah, and the advice that we were getting was that the VRF systems had greatly increased in efficiency over the past 2 decades. So I don't know if that is our understanding of the performance of those VRF systems based on historical evidence of some of the older systems, or is that based on some of the performance specs of the newer systems? Because it sounds like there's quite a differential between those.
Well, we already voted on the change to do this last meeting. We're not relitigating that, are we?
No.
This is, okay, so this is just,
So I'm talking about it from a cost perspective, because if we're not going to save any money, we're spending money, kind of move in a different direction, right? So.
but this would be, but we also have one of the things we talked about at the last meeting is we do have a contingency, and, which is fairly significant for this project. So I don't anticipate this impacting that piece of it as much.
I mean, tied on Peter's assessment of it. So the long-term savings, both in having the redundancy and also not being at the mercy of the electric company rates changing. Additionally, the service fees for maintaining a system of that level versus what we're used to facilities wise and our consultants. And also, just buying out the system in general. I mean, I know $45,000 or $44,000 is not an insignificant amount of money. But when you look at what the total cost of the MEP design for this building is, and then what you're probably going to see on return savings once it's on board, being a gas and electric kind of hybrid system, I think you're more than going to see that 45, not returning back. There's no rebate check that you're going to get, but I think you're going to definitely benefit from the switch in the long run in terms of yearly utility costs, yearly maintenance costs, and potentially the initial package buyout of it. you know, what a boiler system costs versus very high-end VRF systems that you're relying on. So you might even see some savings immediately there, but you're definitely going to see some savings in your long-term maintenance costs and utility costs for the function of the building, which I know isn't exactly your charge, but it folds into the costs.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that. It's a gray area.
Just to keep it in
A lot
perspective,
of money.
I pulled up the bid for the Polson HVAC modernization.
Yeah.
That alone, which is not, you know, which is working into existing systems that are kind of running, is $630,000. So if you think about that, you know, that's a full design system, all of that, you know, to switch from
That's
an
what the design
electrical.
costing.
That's what the design costs. Yeah, so, you know, 44,000 compared to that. This is actually a pretty reasonable change for a change this late in the game of this magnitude. And it does reflect that a very wise, you know, on the design team's decision to put a pause at DD, knowing that this was coming, because CD is when you flesh out all of the real, you know, where is every single ductwork going, what structural steel needs to happen. The fact that the design team paused it and did not let it go into CD probably saved you a significant amount more in a rework fee.
I don't think we've got anything else to go.
Joan,
I'm good.
it looks like we lost Joe.
Yep, we did.
I guess we can still vote. We still have
Yeah, four.
Yep.
Joe's back.
Oh,
We still have a quorum. Yep.
so Joe's back here. You don't see him.
Coming.
Let's go.
His battery probably died.
He is online.
You can hear us?
AJ, you're online too.
Yeah, just because I couldn't see the screen, so I needed it here.
Okay, so AJ needs glasses.
I need to bring my glasses next time.
Joe, anything you wanted to add?
AJ, you're allowed to talk. Or Joe, you're allowed to talk.
Yeah, I don't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You got me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, the battery did die.
So Joe, we just had discussion. I don't know how much you heard. Anything you wanted to add before we take this to a vote?
I didn't, I heard the tail end of the conversation. I didn't hear what the vote was for.
So we're voting to approve the additional design service request for the MEP modifications in the amount of $44,000.
Okay, no further comment.
Okay. All right. I guess at this point we will vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So it's unanimous. Everybody? All right, move on to item 11, discussion of the proposal for Fussin O'Neill for the additional environmental consulting services in the amount of $6,900. That document was sent yesterday. Everyone should have a copy of that.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Oh, hold on, we have a discussion though, right? I just
Oh,
want to
sorry,
verify.
comment, question, sorry. Go ahead, Ann, you're up.
Is this cost being covered by the project or the brownfield assessment?
I believe it's from the brownfield. I think this is something that would be a project cost, per se, but I don't know, Kathleen, you may be able to speak
I
to
would
that.
agree. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Right.
We're just voting to move it forward, right?
We are,
And then the cost will come out of the brownfield.
I did highlight some future tasks that you knew what was coming down the road too, because I didn't want to submit something and then be surprised by the next steps. So we have to take these steps for me to then formulate a proposal for some related data tasks. So please take note of my future task items there. I tried to really tell a story here and not be generic with my submission. so you could follow the logic.
There's no numbers, right? For the future ones, right?
Yeah, so I did 1 through 5 on that. So we had discussed us retaining the abatement contractor. I can't give you a number until they give me a number. And then also, I need to get some more information from Quisenberry. So I did get a plan of some marked up areas for further investigation. Couple of areas I think we need to talk about. I think you're gonna miss actually getting the flooring material. So I don't know if these were cross-referenced with our abatement plans, but one of the rooms that was chosen probably won't have that material adhered to the floor, so it's probably not a good choice. So we'll coordinate the areas a little bit better on that. And also just discussion of how large of an area do you need opened. So for example, there's observations needed for floor joists, but there's really no size specification here. So just need to coordinate a little bit more information so I can give an abatement contractor something a little more concrete in order to get a good number from them, and then in turn share that number with you. And then also additional meetings and correspondence usually goes with these types of activities. As you know, we have discussions and there's coordination items. And then we do anticipate revision of the specifications. Fuss and O'Neill would like to wait until the very end, until everything is discussed. Or, Quisenberry has their final, closest to final documents, then we would look at them again and we will modify our specifications so that we're not continuously charging for modifications of something that could change. So our thought process is between this investigation and then discussions with the committee and potentially some future subcommittees from what we're talking about, and your thoughts provided to Quisenberry, and then getting closer to a final document, we would then look at their documents once we've all made the decisions to come up with what the abatement methodology would be. So that will be another process at some point. So again, I wanted to give you something so that we're not stopping the process, but I also wanted to let you know it would be more.
It's a good layout of the school.
It also helps me remember, right? I mean, to be honest with you, it helps me remember the process and puts me in check to make sure that we, get what we want out of this experience here.
So when you're looking for the quantities of removal, will that map to what the abatement contractors typically price out from a quantity perspective, like siding, you guys do it in squares, right?
Yeah,
So-
so we do have, just please pardon my kindergarten grind here, but I was trying to make things a little bit more colorful for myself. We do have areas of opening up some ceilings to look at floor joists, but then it says that we may need to expand that, try to get as close as to the wall as possible. So it'd be nice if we could say, we're just gonna settle on a 10 by 10, or, whatever the case is. And then I can walk contractors through and say, remove a 10 by 10 area here, you're gonna remove 20 by 40 floor here, I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
But if we have specifics and locations, then they can say, okay, these are how many work areas I need to set up, this is the quantity of material, and they can provide me a cost. And part of this proposal is putting together that work plan that will have the specific locations, the quantities, and then we'll have a plan marked up showing them where the locations are, and we'll meet them at the site and show them, so that we get the best number possible.
Joan, anything you want to add?
I'm good.
No.
Good too. All right. At this point, we will vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Unanimous. Right, next one. Public comment.
No one on.
All right. And we don't have anything else on the agenda, so.
I just wanted to share them.
Go right ahead.
This Friday, we're sampling the monitors right now at the site.
Oh, okay. So they're installed already?
They are, yes.
Okay.
So they have to be installed and then we give them time to actually recharge.
Yeah.
So it's appropriate and then we'll be collecting.
Okay.
the samples.
Or we get a report out of that? Will we get a report, or does that go to facilities, or where does that go?
There'll be a report. Yeah, I think technically under the original,
There you go.
It goes to the
It
town.
goes to the town, yeah, I'm trying to remember who the original piece of everything, so I feel like it's Aaron.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
imagine, yes, either
So
that or.
that's-
We have a copy of it, like those decisions.
Yeah. It'll get sent to the town and distributed. Right. Steve, I guess with nothing else said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.